Hey Sridhar, hi, how are you
Hi.
doing?
Good, good, good. Thanks for inviting
Welcome.
me to your prestigious.
I have a small channel, so let's see what we make of this. But I'm very excited to have this conversation with you, Sridhar. I think I've known you for more than a decade and a half, and we've had some very interesting conversations along the journey. And I've received a lot of insights and guidance from you, so I'm really deeply thankful. And I'm sure during the conversation today, which is going to be more candid, we'll try and cover some of your journeys and insights. And so, yeah, welcome once again.
Thanks. So thanks a lot, Hemant.
Yeah. So Sridhar, sometimes when I interact with people, it's interesting to hear some of their childhood memories. So it would be good to lay some background around what do you recall about your childhood, anything which stands out and stuff.
It's been very simple childhood. I have my family. My father is a government servant, and my mom is a singer. She's been awarded the President's Medal and all, but unfortunately, her career could not take off. That's one regret in life because she was busy looking after us. I am a chartered accountant and company secretary. My schooling was done in Delhi. I was all but just was for a formality. Was born in Chennai, but the entire childhood is have been spent in hardcore Punjabi settlements in Karol Bagh. So to that extent, I'm a semi-Punjabi. And schooled till third standard in a school which is as every Karol Baghi would do next to half this thing where third, fourth, fifth standard would be combined in one class with two students in each. So that is a small memory. Then I went to a fairly large school called Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in Delhi, where I passed out as the first 12th standard pass out. The funny part is that in school we didn't have much communication, so we lost contact. And due to my effort and another one or two people's effort during COVID 2019, we were able to find out the entire 38 students, 19 girls, 19 boys. We were able to find out uh, 22 of them have joined a group, and about six of them have passed away. And we have connected to those who didn't want to be a part of the group. So, but for about 4 or 5 students, we were able to connect after 39 years, the power of social media. And two of them have now become such good, whom I did not, one of them lived in my colony, one of them, we were working in the same organization, albeit at different times. But we've become very close friends now after 39 years that we go on our holidays and all together. By nature, I'm a little shy, not many friends. Eventually, I did my CA from Delhi again. I did my BCom first, initially from Delhi. I was a science student shifting to commerce, so that's an interesting episode. I was the day I was to go to college. I failed medicine entrance exam because I wasn't interested, half prepared. Then, while going to college, my dad gave me money for one college. And my uncle, who's a chartered accountant, was with me. I was having 103 fever. He said, "Go and fill up the admission." So I was taken on admission in science and chemistry honors and BCom honors. So there are two different. Only Delhi allows this privilege of a
Oh,
science student shifting to commerce and all. Not
interesting.
many. I don't think many colleges at that time, or many cities allowed that. So my uncle with me in fever, and my uncle gently or a little bit more than gently nudging me. I eventually ended up in Hansraj College doing BCom instead of the privilege of attending chemistry honors in St. Stephen's,
Interesting.
which is I think one of the well known colleges in Delhi. But Hansraj had a good time, all male class, mostly all male. We are from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, which is 90% of my class dads were similar. Economic backgrounds are similar. 90 or even 100, except that one or two are from private sector who laterally joined in 7th standard and 8th standard. But most of them are either from nursery, first, second, or government servants getting transferred from other cities to Delhi. So most of us, our parents are civic officers and civil officers, and mothers. Some of them are working, some of them are housewives. Interestingly, most of the girls in my class, and there are half of them, are career focused. They're either doctors or civil servants or PhDs and stuff. So the thing that stood out was none of us were economically, one is very rich, one is very poor. It was not like that. All of us were from the similar background. Career was our main focus. Some girls would talk to some boys, but then again, it was we used to converse, but we're limited to subjects. Some of them were outgoing; they would meet out of class and all. And the thing that I felt left out was all of them. Most of them were from living in government colonies. When I was in Karol Bagh, I unfortunately moved to a government colony after I left school. The year I left school. So the other thing that was possibly in today's age and information, just give you an example. My daughter, for instance, with the limited to 2010, she was a CBSE topper. But within that limited time, she could find out limited. 2010 again, the communication was good, but not as of not the level that is today. She was able to find out. She said she will not study in India. She will want to go abroad, and she knew that we didn't have the money to afford to send her abroad. But she had all the information wherever required to say that she'll apply only to need blind colleges. Need blind colleges meaning where there is a lot of scholarship is the payment of fees, and the scholarship is based on your income statement and stuff. And she succeeded in doing that. Now, when we were there, we were only guided by either you become a engineer or a doctor. Even commerce was looked down upon, CA was looked down upon. It is just that my dad wrote the Companies Act in 1974. I sort of finished school in 79. And he had met a lot of these during the course of that writing the act. He had met a lot of these chartered accountants, company secretaries, managing directors and all. So he felt there is a future in commerce. So that's why he sort of dhakkawed me into that profession. But in school, we used to look down upon guys taking one or two guys who took commerce from school. Who were like basically could take science and those one or two people who wanted science but could not get because of their low 10th standard marks or whatever and left school. So that the privilege of taking science in school, from that becoming there's no idea about research, about chemistry, PhD, science research, statistical research, mathematical research. There was nothing, physics research. It's only become a doctor, become an engineer. An engineer meaning IIT. In our time, there used to be Delhi College of Engineering. So it was a little, lack of knowledge. So I wish that there was more information and lesser evil or lesser this one attached to somebody taking liberal arts or somebody taking commerce or somebody taking acting or singing, sports as profession. So I wished I would have wanted to become a cricket commentator, if anything.
Interesting.
But then I'm a statistician, but I would have wanted to become a commentator. But then there was no lifetime, there was no, all was employment guarantee, study towards become rote learning. Everything was like, so that's what I wish had been there, more information.
Interesting, Sridhar. Sridhar, over the years, you've had a pretty diverse experience. You've been largely in education, but even within education and then the social sector. How have you seen? What's your view on? Are there any stark differences in the ecosystem that you see in your early career and now? When I use the word ecosystem, so let's take education for example. The teachers, the parents, the faculty, the management of the education institution, the regulatory bodies. Are there something significant that you see as a shift?
Very, very interesting question. See, I started with hardcore manufacturing. My first job after I cleared my CA was with a company called Krishak Bharati Cooperative Limited, which is one of the largest fertilizer companies in the world. After that, I continued with fertilizer industry and then with the chemical industry. This is my first 9 years of career.
Interesting.
I did an IPO. Within that, I did an IPO. I was able to. So So accountancy, accountant was is a back office function, and everything would become manufacturing, marketing. Uh, there are three things: manufacturing, marketing, and back office, which is admin, human, finance. So finance was not given that kind of an importance, uh, and all that mattered was सस्ते में खरीदना है और optimum price पे बेचना है, factory चलनी चाहिए. Even in the factory, in a manufacturing setup, I may be a little controversial here, but at that point of time, humans were not considered the most important. Humans were
Element
not
of
considered most
production.
important part of the whole process. It was machinery, raw material, finance, money. So, an accountant, there used to be accountants, and they, the finance professionals, as the guys who manage money, who who optimize, who look at financial analysis, complex ratio analysis. So I come from a public sector background, then to a multinational company. There again, I found the MIS reporting and all at a base level. I mean, having somebody who's done more than 2,000 business plans across my career, there's a stark difference. When it came down to, I started before education, I was in IT, your company like SQL Star, where the human beings were the main assets. So in fact, these used to be, coding for 2-year 2K, and professional finance, your IT professionals used to be the main billing resources. HR evolved. The human being was considered. There was efforts to retain employees. There are efforts to encourage employees. Events were organized. Something in a manufacturing, one annual day will be held. Some drama will go on. That is over. Here, monthly parties, motivationals. This one. So that is a stark difference between, and IT is where I started. And the other thing was reporting became much more complex. The resource, we get down to project profitability, we get down to project evaluation, we get down to resource profitability, bench. These kind of words became common. Then when I went from IT to pure education, which started with SQL Star, which is again an half education, half IT company, we so the respect or the reputation of the human resources became much better. So I'm now trained in a way that I call every person I meet in school, whether it's a teacher, even to a assistant teacher or somebody who's helping a teacher in a class, we are trained to call them madam and sir. I was top management in Global Indian International Schools Group. I was top management career launcher. These guys are the ones who are creating value. So we started that one level, respecting and admiring, respecting humans became a notch higher as I moved towards the education sector. So that is the learning curve, which I feel. I remember a couple of guys who thought they were from a corporate, and they went to the schools and started asking, a non-academic started asking, or kitna result nikla, kitne bacche pass hue. But there is a complex way of measuring academic, learning. There are appropriate measures to define and measure learning
Outcomes or learning capabilities.
learning outcome. That's the word I was struggling for.
Yeah.
Learning outcomes. So that is the key journey from HR, humans being just considered as a part of one part of the process, to being the key resources, and to start valuing them as a asset. Unfortunately, teachers today have not been given the prominence. It's housewives who go from city to city, where their husbands get transferred, who are teachers, who are poorly paid, cheated from getting their true salaries even as per, so to shorten it, it is that journey of respect for humans as it goes.
Right, interesting, Sridhar. And how have you seen? So I think you already created a segue for our next question, Sridhar. What are the things that you find are existing the last few years, the education system? What are the things that you're finding, things that you believe are working, despite? So regarding education, I think a lot of people have an opinion. Like a lot of people in India have an opinion on cricket. I think, and obviously a lot of people have opinion on education sector as such. Uh, but you've seen it from a different lens. What aspects of the sector do you see have been working and you've been pleasantly so let's bucket them in this. Things that are working, things that you're pleasantly surprised about, and things that are shocking or concerning you, if you were to bucket them in these.
Okay. So things that are working is that when in our time, I'm sure during your times, rote learning was the only only avenue was to get into get maximum marks, get into take whatever limited coaching was available for IIT or medical entrance. There was a Delhi Public College of Competitions here, and there is a Bansal and I'm forgetting the earlier names. There were one or two Agarwals, if I'm not mistaken. Agarwals or one of the other tutorials in Delhi, which is very famous, and it was like giving an entrance exam to enter the tutorial itself. So that is limited, and the people who couldn't get into this medicine or this one were given up in life, kind of thing. Okay, this is like your chemistry karega, government servant, low level jobs are not available. That is from that I thought information or knowledge about other professions was completely lacking. So that I thought was a shortcoming. And even in these exams, there's a set routine. I mean, BCom of 1982 would be the same as BCom of 2010, or a BSc of 2000. There was no progress, nothing. In CA, when we were doing mainframe computers when personal computers are already in place. We were learning about mainframe. So that kind of gap that in education which existed, and kind of limited knowledge and limited awareness and limited material, that is something which is now, even today, that kind of thing exists. But social media and foreign companies, foreign this one, at least it's up to date. But the CBSE curriculum or the entrance exam curriculum hasn't changed. Still, you do rote learning. Somebody who gets a 97% in class 12 does mean that he has or she has made 10-12 marks worth of mistake out of 400. If somebody gets a 390, gets a 10-mark mistake. Otherwise, whatever you do, economics, English, even the Hindi, Sanskrit, you'll get full marks. So this is one thing which is so far, but it's been sort of they're trying to recoup it through the national education policy. The second thing that is kind of thing which comes out of this is still that stigma, still that thing about getting the maximum marks in the board exams or getting a entrance exam. This has led to commercialization of this training. I'm not against it, but it's become such a thing that if you don't get it, and there is so much pressure on the children that is built up because of competition, competitive exams. Now, earlier, at least for the university admission, there was no competitive exam. Now, from last year, I think they have started something called the Common University Entrance Text, which means there's a separate entrance exam for engineering. There is a separate entrance education for law. There is a separate entrance education for medicine, and there is a central this thing for rest of the world, which is so. This is, the alternative is highly commercialized private universities. Some of them are good names, some of them have been built up by branded people, but a lot of them are very, very commercial. So it has become such a pressure world that either if you get out of the pressure cooker, you get into the other pressure cooker where family has to borrow money to, or family has to spend money, borrow money to educate you, to make you a graduate. There's unfortunately the level has remained the same. None of the couple of Indian universities are ranked in the top 500 of the world, but in top 100 there'll be only one or two. The reason being that there is no research happening, or there is nothing innovative happening. A lot of institutions have at least one thing they've done is on entrepreneurship. Some of the even school level, but certainly at an institute, at a higher ed level, entrepreneurship has been encouraged, and there has been certain like the IITs, the IIMs, some of the private engineering colleges, engineering management institutes have created incubator cells, which are at least entrepreneurship part is taken care of. But this commercial world of either commercialization or the pressure is taking a toll on the children. To that extent, I think we feel privileged that we didn't have information. We were only two straight lines. Otherwise, the third line is that useless bracket. At least utna wo nahi tha ki you will go and commit suicides. 25 to 30 suicides in Kota, which is the center for IIT entrance and even medical entrance to that extent. About 30 suicides, children, they are, moment they enter that world of Kota. Or another example I can give. See, there are certain students. So there are two pillars of IIT entrance exam. One is your Kota, and one is Hyderabad, where your Narayanas and Chaitanyas of the world, they are ruled. They get sometimes they even get top 15 ranks in the IIT entrance exam. But these, I've been told a lot by the IIT students and IIT alumni, that when these kids enter these Narayana Chaitanya, how they teach is from 6th standard onwards, you are made a specialist on maths and physics and chemistry. You are a 0 in English, you are a 0 in social sciences, and you are a 0 in your public appearance, in the sense that your personality is only math, science. You don't know a world beyond that. You don't know how to interact with people, how to talk to girls talking to boys, or boys talking to girls. And when they come to IIT, they find that other children who have not come from this background, but have come from government school background, private, they are much more aware of things in the world. So there is a personality clash in the higher ed, education when they get out of school. And that also led to lot of strain, a lot of people committing suicide in the extreme. But there's a lot of depression and pressure on these guys, that how come we have the same level of intelligence, but these guys who come from the non just science routing background are able to do many more things in life than what we are kind of doing. So that creates that rift. The other problem is you have SC/ST reservation, which is fair social upliftment, etc., etc. But when these children come to when their evaluation becomes common, they are under a lot of pressure. You're not getting free marks when you enter IIT. Your level, similar with medical colleges. So that also creates so these are the difficulties that are, these are the problems that, now Edtech was already forcing its way. Some of the leading ones, the unicorns as they call them, way they threaten parents is they will sort of do an interview with the parents. And it became very popular because of lack of classes and COVID. COVID came in. COVID was one of the very key learnings for us in education. COVID quickly said, okay, you can't go to classes physical, which means you have online classes. Edtech became the buzzword. Again, a lot of companies enrolled children. But the way these companies are putting pressure on these children's parents, they're categorized into 2 or 3 categories. One who they realize are very good. Then those parents are induced by saying that if you join this particular thing, specialized course, you will have to get a top 100 rank. in these entrance exams. Now with the other set of parents who are mediocre, they are threatened by saying that you will be screwed in life if you don't do this course. Your kid is useless. So this is where inducements, threats, and the way these counselors who themselves are unpad will act as if they are IIT professors guiding you. And now the Janta who are not aspiring IIT or aspiring Maulana Azad Medical College were left out of this rut. They would do their 12th standard, if you get 98%, you get admission in Delhi University or run to a private university. Now that common university entrance exam has opened another set of Edtech companies, the same Edtech companies. They are now, all the children who were not earlier part of this, they also become, this makes the CBSE exam irrelevant. Because if you're going to common college, you get common entrance. If you're getting medical, you do NEET. If you're doing IIT, you prepare for your common entrance. So, and which basically means these are the guys whose people will come, force you to join, make money, but their outputs are not measured. I mean, they're not bothered about the outputs. So these are all, kind of issues that are there. Now, this pressures of performance and things and the social, the other problem that is there is because of social media, because of cameras with each one of them, every moment of your life is recorded, and your body, the mental issues of students is becoming a huge issue now. Every kid now has to, be correctly dressed, speak appropriately. Each of your conversation is recorded, or the kids are bullied in school, kids are bullied all off school, and with them not able to meet their friends for 3 years or 2 years in COVID, there has been a serious mental issue with children. Half the children, I don't want to quote any numbers and all because I don't have a reference point, but I'm having spoken to some of these psychologists or psychiatrists. They see that is the biggest problem hurting students now. The ragging, bullying, and all starts at the age of 5, where you call somebody fat, body shaming, name shaming, body shaming, caste shaming. The other thing, so I just want to complete this process. There is something called the Right to Education Act, which enabled which sort of made that 25% of the students enrolled at the earliest school enrollment have to be free students. Now these children, as it is, are not looked upon favorably by most of the schools. They feel that they're an unnecessary burden. But the kind of peer pressure, imagine a parent whose income is 12,000-15,000 rupees a month, an office boy, a maid, who's aspirationally want to get their children. Government did the right thing. But what they're not able to balance is these children go to schools where the parents are paying 15,000-20,000 or even more per month as school fees, where the income is that much. And they get their cell phone in school, they go on fancy holidays, they get whatever a rich kid could afford, and a poor kid sitting next to you. And these kids are made, ridiculed by this rich kids. It's not universal, but it's a fact that these kids get so harassed. That lack of self-confidence and the depression sort of gets over these EO, the reserved kids. So and even the school doesn't look upon them. They will try and fleece whatever is possible outside the system. It could be, wearing a diamond uniform or carrying books covered with gold cover. They try to squeeze as much as possible. And some of them are terminated because the government has to pay. Government agrees to pay a low amount of compensation, 1,000 rupees per kid per month or 1,500 rupees per, and government doesn't pay that for years. And the other thing is, the way basis on which approvals are granted for opening of engineering and medical colleges. The engineering colleges, they give so many licenses or to operate that today there is a situation where a lot of these private colleges are not able to manage, and there are to AICTE, which is a regulatory body, they have more demands for closure of institutions than for opening of institutions. Similarly, medical colleges, there are certain rules to follow. A regulatory body which is supposed to make sure that children who come to your educational institution, they are trained in that course. Medicine means you're trained to treat, you're trained to operate, whatever that may be. But there are instances where people have come to postgraduate institutes, to government and other places, that they haven't seen a body in life. They just go to class, have picnic and come back and awarded their degrees. They are trying to address the situation. The regulations are becoming better, and the school education is completely changing. Now, school leaving exams, one is the CBSE, one is ICSE, state boards, CBSE, ICSE, and something like an IB. Now, ICBSE, state boards are still predominantly rote learning. There is certain syllabus, there is a certain question paper. The teachers are instructed to teach that question paper, and children learn from last 10 years or from whatever is taught and go and vomit it in the exam, and they get based on mistakes they make. But there is something called the new education policy which has come up now, which has recognized the fact that rote learning is not, and just by making them rote literate, they cannot survive in the world. So it is recognized entrepreneurship, it has recognized skills. Similarly, if you take a subject like history, for instance, they recognize that you have been taught, like the famous example is, you won't know who is Krishnadeva Raya's father, or you won't know who is Rana Maharana Pratap's ancestors, or one below. But you know from Humayun to Bahadur Shah Zafar, Aurangzeb ka father ye tha, iska father. You won't know what is the history of East India. You won't know, you're not taught what is the history of South India. So those things, they are now trying to change. They're trying to get in a lot more skill and entrepreneurship into education. Make the exams spread out so that you can take multiple exams. So the and similarly, a floating undergraduate course, you can join, enter whenever you want. 2 years, you get a diploma. 3 years, you get a degree. 4 years, you get a master's. 4 years, you get an honors. They're trying to make it very flexible. And school education, the aim is by the time you graduate from school, you are at least entrepreneurially trained or skillfully trained. You know, you can, if you're not good, you can at least you're trained to become a carpenter. You're trained to become a musician. You're trained to become an actor, or whatever skill that you show. It's not necessary that everyone has to enter education. So this is a good thing that the national education policy is taken. But how the state boards which are in opposition are not state boards which are in opposition are opposing it for the sake of opposing it. So a unified approach is still not there. But this is at least a step in the right direction, regulating universities. Similarly, the other thing that has come up is, this thing about not-for-profit. It's the biggest cartoon in the world that education institutions are run for not-for-profit. You have private equity entering education and you say it's not-for-profit. I think super ironical. It's very ironical that you have something like it's not-for-profit but private equity participating. So now in the K-12 sector, it's well recognized thing. Corporates are running schools, and corporates, the good part is, and I'm a serious part of this, the good part of corporates is they obey rules and regulations more than these builders who run schools. So at least, you know, what is happening is teachers are not the common thing in these schools which are run by builders, which are run by contractors, which are run by SATs, is that teacher itne mein, and in my 200, 100, more than 100 plus opportunities that I evaluated for acquiring schools, the thing is, you're told teachers itne mein aati hai. I mean, that is the worst that we sort of avoid those schools where these kind of dialogues are heard. What they do is they promise a certain, they are to pay a certain salary as per pay commission, 6th, 7th, whichever is accepted in that state. But they transfer that much salary to the teachers, but take back bearer checks, signed, undated bearer checks, so that they withdraw the money that is the gap between the, sorry, yeah.
I have a curiosity, Sridhar, here. What percentage of the problem are we talking about? Is it rampant, like very high, or what do you feel?
It is there. It is okay. Let me put it this way: all non-corporate schools, quite a few. I will not go into percentages. It's a major problem. The teachers are not getting the salary that they are eligible for. This leads to a bigger problem of who wants to become a teacher today. I want to become a chartered accountant. I want to become an IT professional. I want to become a engineer, doctor, IT professional. I want to become want to work in a back office where I can get a salary for my 8 or 10 hours of work. Who wants to become a teacher? Nobody wants to become a teacher. And today there's a huge shortage. Educational qualifications are stringent, but that is again a rote learning process. You do something called B.Ed, which is again a rote, and then there are put through. It's a ramp. See, I wouldn't want to go into qualification as a rampant problem, but it's a huge problem. This is because they are not respected in society.
Right. So let's sorry, go ahead.
Carry on, you carry on.
So I think you bucketed the stakeholders. You talked about regulatory, you then talked about the promoters of the school, you talked about teachers, you talked about students. So you covered almost all the stakeholders around this. Suppose for a minute we were to say that almost all stakeholders would agree on the definition of the problem statement, hypothetically. First of all, do you see that as a scenario where
no, not at all, because see, one leg is the parents. Nowadays, parents, at least one good thing that's happening is parents are very active. Whichever I am paying. See, the basic problem statement from a parent's perspective is they take the school as an ROI. You know, I've spent so much money of fees in high school. I've spent so much. This thing, kitni salary milegi jo mere. This leads to advertising like these engineering or MBA college fairs. You know, where you have they say they don't advertise by the education or their specialization as to what improvement they will give the student. It is more categorized by what kind of salaries that they are placed. So I went to one of these one of these fairs. He said 1 crore rupiah salary to start. I went and asked him, what is the proof? I mean, can you show me something that somebody who from a private MBA college is getting? He said, this is the salary over the last 12 years. You know, advertised as 1 crore. But when he mentioned its salaries over the last 12
spread
years,
over 12 years.
The guy started with 8
Such
to 10
joke.
years. And it is placement. Every college comes out and says placement. Private college. So this kind of problem statement for parents is different. Teachers are there. They want to take their profession seriously. Their problem statement is some of the teachers that come up are IT friendly. Most of them are not. So this technology that is thopod on them, they take it as a challenge to their profession. They think that they are insecure because they think soon a robot will take over. And it's happening also, at least in one school in India, in Bangalore. A robot teacher is there.
Oh, interesting. Which school is this, Sridhar?
Indus in Bangalore.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But they, I think, discontinued it after 2-3 years because same the technology, when the children can sit at home and take
Chatbots
classes. So
talking.
why do I have to come to school? So teachers are feeling insecure.
Hmm.
The only ones who are laughing right now are the investors, the owners and investors. And for all, K-12 is supposed to be not for profit. And not for profit is not some businessman would set up a school for. He profits but doesn't pay any taxes on it.
I think you covered a great landscape on the policy change in terms of regulatory changes, corporate coming in, and at least those schools showing some kind of regulatory, obeying certain rules, technology coming in, teachers. You talked about teachers and the challenges of teachers, parents, how they are viewing their child education more in terms of placement and investment and ROI, all of that. The question that it emerges, and maybe we'll try and cover on this call or probably have another call around it, is that so let's say we were to say that these are the problem statements, okay, and then we were to then say I want to be also mindful that when we are dealing with human systems, the general tendency is quickly define the problem and quickly define the solution. And some of the latest researchers in complexity science and systems thinking are suggesting that we need to be a little more careful, because whatever is the problem statement, there would be multiple reasons why it would be occurring. So don't jump and try and solve, just try and understand the problem a little more deeper, maybe second order, third order. But having said that, four things if we could cover over this call, whatever limited. One is, what are some of the good experiments you're seeing in India around education? Second, uh, a person or a book or something that you find interesting that you've read in the last few years, or you've seen a particular video and that has really inspired you around education. Third is, what are your initial suggestions to handle this issue that we have? And fourth is, where do you draw your hope or optimism from? I've just indexed it. I'll come back to them one by one. So the first thing is good experiments. What are some of the good experiments you're seeing around education? Now, this could be in terms of policy. It could be in terms of a teacher, a simple teacher, a parent teacher, or a school, or a technology, whatever.
Okay. So the first thing is the Edtech came in a very big way. Now their growth is plateaued. They are taking out this one. And physical thing is come back. So the now that learning has been there for Edtech is not the only solution. Edtech blended with an appropriate blend of Edtech and your offline physical structures seems to be solidifying and seems to be now, I think, a going forward model. Some of these Edtech companies are opening physical classrooms. There is a moderation that a teacher is needed. Tech is an aid. Tech is not the substitute. That kind of thing is emerging. Second, the national education policy, as I said in the past also, is trying to convert the children into responsible citizens. The third thing is, school learning, higher learning. There was no research. There was no stimulating the children's brains away from rote learning. That is changing. A lot of schools now have a lot of private companies, startups are around that fact that just by learning Ohm's law or just by learning photosynthesis, you're not going to become a citizen who can contribute to society. So there is certain amount of labs that have come up, specialized space labs have come up. There are 3D is being introduced in a couple of schools as a science modeling thing. So this opens to open the imagination of the children. Though this is something which is really good. And some of the private institutions, higher ed institutions, things like IITs, things like private universities, they are opening up their entrepreneurship in a very big way. And unicorns have come after college, but there is some kind of, whether it is in the area of healthcare, whether it's in the area of clean energy, these startups which are emerging from these higher ed, and some of them at the school level itself. For in Delhi government is doing a fabulous job of creating skill, your research centers within school. This allows the children to express themselves and it manifests into some great ideas. So that is the kind of awareness that is kind of opened up entrepreneur skills. So that sort of at least helps to give the children whatever their intellect is, to express it in a big way. So there's a very positive thing that's happening, and it's happening across institutions. I mean, government, private. At school level, it is skills and entrepreneurship thinking. At college level, it is the actual process of entrepreneurship. There are funds available. There are sectors where and they've come up with some fantastic ideas in the whole process. Yeah.
Interesting. So that's where the good experiments that you would stack up. Any book, any person, any particular. Of course, I'm also mindful that sometimes we over-index our influence or impressions on one person or one book. That cannot never be the case, but still.
See, okay. I have been there's no book or anything, but it's an evolution of evolving and evolution of certain ideas that have come. I come from a for-profit background. For me, in the education sector, apologetically, but I come from that sector where not-for-profit was converted to profit. In K-12, I was one of the architects of this, where we converted for not-for-profit into profit. Oh, and I'm a little half in, 1/4 in, 3/4 out. I feel that there has to be a certain responsibility towards education. It cannot be, or towards healthcare for that matter. It cannot be that everything is driven by investments, ROI. Stakeholders should be awarded equally. The teachers are stakeholders here. Parents are stakeholders here. And the investors or lalas are stakeholders in the other. I feel that there has to be a mix. It cannot be key. One of these unicorn education tech companies will drive a parent to such madness that they will go and borrow to frighten them in a way that if you don't do it, your kid is like a wasted. And parents are sensitive to their children's needs. So I feel that, now I'm more socialistic in thinking. I feel that education, healthcare should not be a pure. I differentiate between impact investing and a pure ROI private equity players or public issues for that matter. Whatever, investors getting rich rewards versus investors getting reasonable rewards. I am veering from investors are investors, they put in their money, they put in their risk, so they need to be rewarded, to investments must happen. Good technology, good, whether Indian or international, should be available to the students. But students and parents should not be squeezed in their life. It should not be like ladki ho gayi to shaadi karne ke liye aaj se paise jama karana shuru kar do. So that is the thing, in the sense that has been my learning.
Yeah.
From so I started with IT education, which is SQL Star, again an NIT, where I was CFO for education, global education. As finance controller for global education. So coming from that pure profitability to investments with an appropriate return to all the stakeholders, the teachers, parents, investors.
Right. What would, given that you identify this as one big challenge in the sector, what would need to give in, or what needs to be done to move the needle of the nation to this direction? What do you think? Any ideas?
First, this may be sounding a little radical, but I believe in it. First of all, these, more money needs to come into the system. And money with a reasonable expectation of a return. It cannot be these 25% IRRs or 20% IRRs, doubling my value, It can be a Reliance ka share, or it can't be an it can't be an Infosys ka share. It has to be, for that, first thing that needs to be done is these trusts which exist, which take out, makes any income tax rate on any of these trusts would yield 100 crore of cash, 200 crores of cash, 500 crores of cash. Lot of them, not all of them. Again, I would not like to. So this needs to, and whatever returns they make, they have to, for getting exemption of income tax, they have to show some kind of commitment to investment or investments. I don't want to get into the sections and stuff, but to avoid all this nonsense, I feel that the trusts and societies have to be taxed. Any public charitable test doing education healthcare needs to be taxed. That money.
What would taxation lead to in terms of behavior? What do you anticipate?
That's what I'm saying. A, they will be more regulated. They will have the fear of law. Secondly, if that 500 crores of cash which they collect every year, or they try to take out, they are not running in charity, but if you see their balance sheets, they'll be reporting losses. That's the difference. Even though they don't pay tax, but they're not allowed to take out any dividends or anything. So first is these trust societies, that will mean more recording, more inspection, more tax, more tax collection. That taxes can be used for reinvestment by government in their part of education, by government schools, government funded. That needs to be done. Secondly, I feel to avoid these, taking money out of here and there and everywhere, they can be corporatized. Whoever wants to, I'm quite okay if these are taxed at a lower base. They need not be taxed at a corporate level. They can be taxed at a half a level. Some laws need to be rationalized. For instance, today there is everybody who wants to operate a school cannot own land and building, or another education institution cannot own, so they have to lease. And there are an 18% global GST on rentals. Children are not charged service tax. Children are not charged GST. So it's a one-sided cost. It enhances the. Why not exempt educational institutions in all education services from GST? You add income tax, add other taxes, but exempt them from GST. All activities related to education exemption. So there are certain regulatory changes that are needed.
So that's the angle where the regulation, the finance, the account, the taxation could create a kind of a constraint for hoping for a good behavior, a responsible behavior towards education.
Absolutely.
That's one aspect. What could be the other pillars, Sridhar? So that's one pillar.
Yeah. The second, couple of other things is that, the learning aspect. I think NEP to an extent is addressing that by making learning more interesting, by making them more capable people, capable of earning a living, capable of, expanding their horizon, thinking, abilities and all. This thing is not, it is just a start. Again, it is opposed by states and all. So there needs to be, for ensuring quality of education across the board, I feel that instead of having every state run its own standard, every state run its own board, at least to begin with K-12, there can be a uniform standard across. One country, one exam. Of course, there are private boards and all. There is a ICSC, there is an IB for rich kids. But the fact that there is a common entrance exam for IIT or for medicine, but there are different state boards. This is leading to, and mostly, some of the exams held only in English. This is leading to a lot of suicide, a lot of issues with children. Tamil Nadu children are not able to enter NEET because they feel what they are taught in biology and physics and chemistry in class 11 and 12 in their state board is very different from the questions that are asked for the NEET exams. So I think a uniformity of education needs to be ensured across all states. if centralization is uniform one education board for the country is the way to go, then that is the way to go. So that children NEP is implemented across. The second thing is even your undergrad colleges, even the IITs and all, they are not ranked among the top ones. Still, the college education that's imparted here may be as good as a Harvard or a Yale or a Stanford or a Cambridge. But the fact is that there is no research coming out of these institutions. PhD children do in JNU. PhD is you wait for your time to become a civil servant or a bank officer, and they get the stipend, and that's the end of it. They are not interested in genuine research. Neither are these universities. So I think I'm not again an educational professional. I'm a finance professional, but I think what needs to be done is research needs to be encouraged a lot more. What kind of effort is happening in these institutions as regards entrepreneurship? Something similar needs to happen. Research can feed into good original research can feed into entrepreneurship naturally. But I think research is something for these institutions to give more seriousness to kind of thing. And the other thing is there are disparate set of teacher training colleges for K-12. There are no standards. One B.Ed degree is awarded, and there is a huge shortage of teachers. Some of these government schools go without teachers. Some of these government schools are shut in places like Bihar and UP and all. There is a huge difference of standard between the education in the South, government schools in the South, versus what is happening to the government schools largely in Bihar and Bimaru states, as they are called. So that needs to be standardized. The education of the teachers, the teacher training has to be standardized, and these states have to, to take education more seriously. The government budget allocations are so less that it's a joke, it's a pittance. They don't take it seriously. So government budget allocation increase, proper training of teachers, placement of these teachers, uniform training of these teachers, and placement of these teachers across, fill up these vacancies. That's all. Every state today is more famous. All elections are decided based on teacher scams. Recruitment of teachers. Every state, the biggest scam is recruitment of teachers. And do away with all that and have a standardized training and recruitment process and fill up all the vacancies, I think, and give respect to teachers. And that, I think, that will automatically improve your education system across the country.
Yeah. Where do you see hope and optimism coming from, Sridhar?
Optimism is coming from the realization that entrepreneurship is now is every kid is given that opportunity to become an entrepreneur. Skills is being recognized. Skills, there have been a lot of mistakes in the. We haven't talked about that, but other than IIT and entrance medical, there's also a thing is skill training companies which are this one, and there's a huge gap between what the industry requires and what are people are trained by this NSDC based companies. And the companies are cribbing about good shortage of IT professionals, shortage of technology manufacturing guys, shortage of other professions. An accountant doesn't know what finance is. A finance guy doesn't know what an accountant is, what accounting is. So that skilling now, I think everybody learns these skills. Now there are about 30 skill councils, each for a profession. There's an automotive skill council, there's a GEM skill council, there is a IT skill council, there's a finance and banking. So now I think serious efforts are being made now. Industry participation is becoming last 10 years. So industry participation, more relevant training, and more placements. And so India has this youth-driven economy where your wealth is your youth. A lot of now foreign companies are now respecting to take Indian labor, blue-collar workers. It could be in construction, it could be engineering, it could be welding. various sectors, they are finding their populations going down and their inability to work. And the hiring is happening across Europe. Middle East, or traditionally the Indians would go to the Middle East and Southeast Asia and Singapore and Malaysia and all. But here, Europe hiring is happening. US hiring is happening. Something like nursing, for instance, welders, nurses, contract construction workers. So that is one form of optimism that will globally, it'll impart global standards into India, and Indian industry would actually adopt to those practices. And so that's one optimism. National education policy, as I said, is another optimism. Entrepreneurship driven education, where children get the confidence that once I am out of college, I can do it on my own, providing the necessary impetus to necessary encouragement and environment to these children to become entrepreneurs. That's another thing. If everything, this current dispensation and current policies towards improvement of education is there, if it is implemented properly, that's another source of optimism. The fourth one is that mental health is now being recognized as a problem for children, and that mental health thing is now awareness is there. It's not conquered. Half the children in schools are depressed. They don't want to go to school. Half of them are finding it as a social challenge, because imagine a 6-year-old going to school after 2 years of COVID and meeting children whom he has seen on camera for the last 2 years. Social adjustments, that right from kids up to the undergrad level of another 22, when you are 22, 20. So at least it's been recognized and awareness has been created around it.
Right. In your suggestions, sorry, you have some more, or am I interjecting?
It's fine.
Okay. So I'll come back to mental health and imagination, two words that I picked up selectively. I've been a little selective. I'll come back to them. But before we move on, your hope, optimism balance sheet would be incomplete till you write down the liabilities or concerns. If you dread if they happen, then we would go down, rather than rising up. What would those things be?
See, one is resistance to change. The NEP is there. It's making you better. But politically, if somebody is not willing to take it on, implementation. Secondly, education, as said during the conversation, education is not being treated as one of the most important things in life. It is treated as a necessity which the government has to do. That process has to change. It is like education is the dividend that you will get from the youth in terms of productivity and other things. Education has to be the cornerstone or the founding pillar for this whole growth. So I feel it needs to be given the importance that is due. Simply in numbers, GDP allocation to education can increase manifolds. Thirdly, I think this, as I said in some part of the interview, this rampant commercialization has to level. I mean, I can't say band kar do, nationalize kar do, socialist government, socialist ban jao. Become a socialist or become the investment will stop coming, developments will stop happening if money doesn't flow into the system. But money has to flow, and the expectation of return from the money has to be mediocrized, or the expectations should not be 100 rupee share becoming a 25% IRR kind of thing. It has to be moderated. The expectation has to be moderated. You will get some appropriate, it's like fertilizer subsidy, no? You manufacture, you get a plus of 24% or whatever on the cost. It has to be moderated. And that kind of regulatory, self-regulatory whatever needs to be done, that greed has to be opted out. Only those people who are interested in creating wealth for themselves and creating productivity in the society need to be encouraged to invest.
Right. I remember you mentioning, Sridhar, during this call itself.
So one more thing, this mental health thing has to be taken far more seriously. I mean, government, agencies, psychiatrists, everybody, psychologists, psychiatrists, have to take it much more seriously. It's a thing waiting to explode.
Okay. Many times India is generally compared with China as a model. Of course, China's context is completely different. There are a lot of things that are different in China than you have in India. Have you been able to look at what's happening in China in terms of education, and what are the things
I
that
had an opportunity to evaluate 1 or 2 acquisitions there.
Okay.
They do everything in a very big scale. If they promote something, they suddenly realize English is a very important language. So private schools come up in a way that it becomes a huge number. There are a lot of private schools there. Certainly investments are happening. They have privatized the whole thing, even though it's supposed to be a communist country, but where it needs to be privatized, so their priorities are there. They create big infrastructure there. And their research institutes are way ahead of ours. Some of the Chinese colleges which are ranked in the Beijing University and Shanghai, they are very highly ranked in terms of research and all. So they are very focused in terms of what they want to achieve as a goal. They have they have the money, and here it's more disparate, disparate, and more spread out. But now what is happening is, because of here the beauty of this country is there is democracy. There is educational institutions can run the way. There is a certain regulated exam. There's a certain regulated approvals, but it has got much more scope to innovate, provided somebody takes it, all government and the other stakeholders take it seriously. There it is now. The investments have becomes lesser because there again, foreign companies which are going into China is not going to go there for charity. They are going in. Their own education system is what it is, but since they want to compete with the international community, they have to have languages. They have to have the technology, which is their institute, maybe their higher learning education institutions can be compared to the ones in the West. So for that they have a pinpointed agenda. Here it's a much more freer world. I think because of the freer world, I think India can do much better in terms of this one, but right now China is ahead.
Right. Sridhar, I think I have more aspects to cover, but I think I'll come back to you and do a second round, more pointed. Today, I think we were laying down the broad context of the conversation, and you covered huge grounds in terms of stakeholders and stuff happening, concerns and optimism. Maybe in the next interaction, we'll try and look at how do we, maybe in the next interaction, we will try and cover your learnings from impact investing. What ingredients need to be in place in terms of we'll move beyond the word that greed needs to be channelized in a different manner. And we'll try and cover mental health and imagination and see where we go from there.
Sure.